water is everything to us here, and it is our obligation to ourselves and to future generations to do everything we can to enhance and protect this incredibly important natural resource for us. Because when I say it's everything to us, it's our quality of life, it's recreation, it's our economy. You know, the water we drink is beneath our feet here. So everything about us as a region, we are an island. If we are not actively working to protect water quality in our region, we are undercutting our future. And that's why the work that the Peconic Estuary Partnership has done over these many years now, and the vision you have laid out for the future, is so important to the county. And that's why we're so excited about continuing this incredible partnership.
The Peconic Estuary is the heart of the East End. Freshwater from rivers, streams, and groundwater mix with saltwater from the Atlantic Ocean, creating a brackish water environment, a range of salinity suitable for all kinds of life. Wildlife from far away come to visit the estuary, whether it's to find food from its abundant biodiversity or a place to spawn in its protective, calm waters. Others make the estuary a permanent home. Long Island natives and visitors from all walks of life flock to the water for its beauty and recreational fun. Fisheries, farms, businesses, real estate, and tourism name just a few reasons the East End of Long Island relies on the estuary in everyday life for economic growth and prosperity.
A thing that the Nature Conservancy used to do is declare some of the last great places on Earth, and the Peconic Estuary was one of those places. Because it's so important to the community, because relative to a lot of places on this planet, it's fairly healthy, and it's so important to protect those places that are not in tremendously bad shape, and because they're such a good example of habitat, wildlife, water quality, and they're so important to all the people living around the estuary. It's our pleasure to participate in the Peconic Estuary Partnership, and we really are grateful to the partnership for the opportunity to work with a whole suite of different types of partners to protect and preserve the estuary.
The partnership's mission closely aligns with our mission to conserve, protect, and improve New York State's natural resources. And in this case, protecting the estuary also supports the lifeblood of a region whose well-being is completely intertwined with that of the estuary itself. Protecting it means protecting more than 100 rare and endangered species, but it also means protecting this place's quality of life, its economy, and the resources that make it one of New York's most special places.
The Peconic Estuary area, the whole east end of Long Island, is really the focus of the landscape is really the water. You can't go too far in one direction out here and not bump into the Peconic Estuary watershed. Earlier, I walked down to my favorite spot in Accabonac Harbor. Accabonac Harbor is the heart of Springs, which is one of the hamlets in East Hampton town. And if you go down there, even at the end of the day, there's people lined up looking out at the sun going down, and it's just a magical spot. And that happens 365 days a year. And I'm sure other communities around the Peconic Estuary feel the same about that. The Peconic Estuary just has a lot of assets to it that are important to the communities out here, from swimming to boating to bird watching to fishing, shellfishing, the whole gamut.
You have this intersection of land and sea and sky, this really marvelous ecosystem that interacts with different components. And because you have this confluence of fresh water and salt water and land masses, it makes for really a rare and significant ecosystem, that if we don't have high quality environment, if we don't have good quality surface waters and groundwater, you're going to lose that significant component that also helps bolster the local economy and is so important to folks here, not just residents of Long Island, but the folks who come here to recreate and visit.
It's been historically an important resource for fishermen and farmers, and it's been serving as an economic engine in recent times through providing still many of these historic maritime opportunities and services. But it's also more recently become a tourist destination, as well as a very important real estate area on the East End. So it's really important for those reasons. And it's also important because it provides important habitat, and natural resources can thrive in this environment as well. So we want to keep this estuary in as good a shape as we can, for supporting all of those benefits, not the least of which is the habitats and the ecosystem health, but also because it's going to provide recreational and economic opportunities and become an economic engine for the East End of Long Island.
Because the Peconic Estuary is a vital ecosystem for both people and wildlife, the United States Environmental Protection Agency has designated the Peconic as an estuary of national significance. In 1992, the Peconic Estuary Program, now the Peconic Estuary Partnership, became one of 28 national estuary programs and was formed with the mission to protect and to restore this precious resource. A management plan named the Comprehensive Conservation Management Plan, or CCMP, is our blueprint that determines how we focus our work around the estuary. Efforts to protect and restore the estuary are highly collaborative. PEP's work is accomplished through the teamwork of many partners, the pooling of resources, and the expertise of community members. As a partnership, we've achieved notable accomplishments over the years, some of which include more than 24 projects that have restored shorebird habitat, wetlands, grasslands, beaches, shellfish, diadromous fish habitat, and eelgrass beds. A federal designation of the entire Peconic Estuary as a vessel waste no discharge zone. And more than 1 million clams and 500,000 oysters were grown and seeded into the estuary. The PEP has also developed a homeowner rewards program that has allowed more than 70 homeowners to receive funding for sustainable landscaping to help protect water quality. The PEP was also instrumental in a sewage treatment plant upgrade and reuse project in Riverhead, reducing overall water use and diverting approximately 1.4 tons of nitrogen per year from entering the Peconic Estuary via the Riverhead sewage treatment plant outfall pipe. The PEP has also helped initiate the creation of the Peconic Estuary Protection Committee, dedicated to leveraging the resources of municipalities with focus on stormwater regulations. The PEP and its partners developed the Critical Lands Protection Strategy and encouraging living shoreline projects around the estuary for greater habitat value and resilience to erosion.
We've seen, the success stories. We've had, 29 restoration projects in the Peconics. The fish passage, the living shorelines, and it brought a big notice about the nitrogen problems, and now Suffolk County and the state and everybody is working on nitrogen reduction. That if we hadn't had that partnership, I don't think it would have had that much of a focus, nor would we have gotten so much support, because when essentially you've got it from the ground up, you get this big swell of interest both from government agencies, the politicians, and so on. So it's been a good basis, and that partnership and the collaboration is now looking into the future, where we see how, just from our efforts, how resilient nature is. And if you put in a couple of fish ladders or you do some shorelines, it comes roaring back that you never thought may happen.
I think the work that has been done in the Peconic Estuary has been successful. The fish ladder at Grangeville Park was put in place in 2010. The construction was completed toward the end of February in 2010, and 2 weeks later, the construction crew saw alewives moving up through the fish ladder. I think with the Grangeville Park fish pass and the other fish passes when they get in place, this run can be quite substantial, probably well over 100,000 fish. As we've looked around the island, we have found, I think, well over 26 streams that have some remnant run of alewives. So there's a lot of work left to do, but the successes that we've seen in the Peconic really are laying the foundation for what can be done. The work that's being done in the estuary on all fronts is very good. It's detailed work, it's long-term work, and I've always been a fan of long-term data strings. And the other things that you folks have done beyond the fishery stuff, you know, the rain gardens, the wetlands enhancement, the communications with town governments and other non-NGOs, it's all been very good. It's all been very positive.
Despite the successes accomplished through the cooperative, persistent work of numerous organizations and individuals, the Peconic Estuary faces critical challenges. From climate change impacts, land development, degraded habitats, nitrogen inputs, pollution carried by stormwater runoff and groundwater, and harmful algal blooms, to the need for increased awareness in our community.
Although a lot of good work has been done, there is still, we're still facing declining water quality. We recognize that we need to redouble our efforts. There are challenges on so many fronts, but you know, our water bodies, our environment, the Peconic Estuary is really at the forefront of that. And to make those changes, it takes a human commitment, but it also takes money. It takes resources. So we all need to be, you know, recommitted to the fact that we're going to need to put our money where our mouth is, you know, whether it's to upgrade sewage treatment plants, upgrade septic systems, remediate and restore wetlands, stormwater abatement, all of these various projects that we need to commit to that are going to make the difference step by step over the long haul. You know, we need to make that commitment now, and we can't let that commitment languish. We're the stewards of it. You know, it's great to look at, but we need to keep it clean too. And so it's a reminder to me that our job is never finished when it comes to protecting the estuary. When you can look around and, you know, north, south, east, and west and see what a special resource that we've been bequeathed, and it's our job now to make sure that the next generation gets the opportunity to enjoy it just the way that we have.
After more than 15 years since the program's inception into the National Estuary Program, the year 2020 introduced a newly revised comprehensive conservation management plan with fresh goals and actions to meet the more recent and ever-evolving challenges in the estuary. Our management plan leads the partnership to focus on these four main goals for the next decade: strong partnerships and engagement, empowering local communities to support estuary health, resilient communities prepared for climate change, helping local communities to take meaningful, well-informed action to prepare for and adapt to climate change impacts in the estuary, clean waters, protecting areas with clean water from degradation and decreasing negative impacts from legacy, current, and future nutrient inputs and the inputs of toxics, pathogens, and marine debris into our waterways. A healthy ecosystem with abundant, diverse wildlife. Expanding scientific understanding of the Peconic Estuary ecosystem and deliver information that supports management of key habitats and species diversity in the Peconic Estuary and its watershed. The heart of the East End relies on our work with our partners to achieve these goals.
The Comprehensive Conservation Management Plan is basically just a framework that sort of lays out, you know, the strategy for how we are to accomplish these things. But in the end, it really requires everyone chipping in and doing their part in order to actually get the work done. Each group brings whatever they bring, whether it's resources, whether it's finances, whether it's just hands-on expertise. It's very important. And so we need the community, we need, everyone to just come to the table and do our best to protect and preserve this wonderful, valuable resource, which is the Peconic Estuary.
It really boils down to partnerships. So as we protect the environment, EPA can do so much, but our work is much more meaningful if we have other stakeholders, other partners, other resources that are being leveraged. So the partnership, of course, is important because they're non-regulatory, they are engaged in their community, and they are specifically focused on ensuring that this resource is protected and managed in a way that will keep it safe for future generations. Just nationally, NEPs have generated some $4 billion of habitat protection. So for Peconic and their cohort across the nation, the movement itself is significant. And as we do this is the other piece that's important when we talk about collaboration. Collaboration may be ideas, energy, but it's also financial resources. So my understanding that the monies that are invested leverage as much as 19 additional dollars for every federal dollar that's spent in terms of local investment. So we are very proud of this engagement. We help support it, but ultimately you folks are the caregivers. You are the ones on the ground who advance it. So collaboration, without collaboration, this wouldn't exist. The accomplishments that are occurring would not occur. And it requires that dynamic process, but again, the group on the ground is the one that is carrying this all forward, putting all the pieces together to make them work and sew them together locally.
My commitment as a town supervisor has been to improve and protect our surface waters. What we do on the land impacts, what happens in the water, everything that we do here. I think, again, the partnership allows for us to engage with other communities to effectively combat issues that impact the estuary, whether it be road runoff and pollution, nitrogen loading from septic systems, climate change and the warming of the bay, which has its impacts on shellfish and finfish and the viability. It triggers algal blooms as well. So, again, the partnership is a way for us to join together to help inform the public of the issues surrounding the Peconic Bay region, and for us to come together to try to solve these challenges that the estuary is facing.
And some of these projects are quite complicated. For example, the issue with nitrogen loading in our bays and estuaries that causes harmful algal blooms. The solution to that is very expensive, and it overlaps a lot of jurisdictions. So you have towns and villages, and you have the county, and you have the state, and the partnership pulls all those people together under one umbrella to sort out how to best tackle these problems.
What we see also is this increasing population, which contributes largely to a lot of the problems that we have. And you guys are the first to see. Your monitoring program is really phenomenal when you really dig into it and look at what information that can provide to us. We have programs out here that we're putting in place, mandating systems, innovative alternative septic systems, to try to prevent the nitrogen that's getting into our bays and our estuaries, that's causing the algal blooms, that's creating the problems that prevent some of the economic gains that could happen, but also contribute to a whole economy out here, which is really dependent on a system that is working well biologically as well as economically.
One of our most important initiatives under water quality, trying to reduce nitrogen pollution in our estuaries, in our bays, is to implement or install advanced wastewater treatment systems. And I want to thank the Peconic Estuary Partnership that has been such a great supporter and collaborator on that effort. We have been awarded from New York State the lion's share of funding that is directed towards the septic improvement program and putting in these advanced wastewater treatment systems into homes so that we can reduce nitrogen flows and inputs into our waterways. And the program is doing extraordinarily well. We have so much more that we need to do, but like the new plan that the Peconic Estuary Partnership that you have laid out. We are looking ahead to the future and looking at expanding that program and continuing to work together to improve water quality in our county and our region.
One of the biggest issues that we're dealing with now, besides the tide issue and water quality issue, is how we're dealing with climate change. Climate change is an immediate threat. We're an island. Many of us on Eastern Long Island don't live too far from the water. Any change in the climate that's going to affect the volume of water or the rising tide is going to affect us all. So just that one issue. But the great thing about the Peconic Estuary Plan is they focus on a whole variety of issues capable of attracting grants to focus on each one of these issues that together, taken in totality, talks about how we're doing as a, I would say, ecosystem. I think it's very important that Peconic Estuary designation has helped tremendously, has driven not only federal, but a lot of local and state funding to study specific issues.
A temas científicos solamente. La ciencia es la columna vertebral de la organización y esto es imprescindible porque las decisiones que se toman a nivel de la EPA y a nivel de los estuarios son decisiones basadas en estudios científicos y en datos científicos de calidad de agua, monitoreo de calidad de agua. Sin embargo, estos datos científicos se unen en el campo, como le decimos en el field en inglés, se unen a esa riqueza comunitaria que tenemos. Climate change and community science are two key areas of the CCMP revision that I think locates the PEP on a very good position moving forward to the future. And through community science, we can open an important door to help people understand better that they are part of a watershed, that we are part of an important coastal ecosystem.
Public access is really critical because you need to have people to get to the water, to be able to use the water and the beaches. And I really like the critical land protection strategy that PEP is promoting and working with the towns who are thankfully funded to make sure that public access will always be there. But the other side of it is the issue with sea level rise and coastal erosion and how it's been increasing in the last few years. I've got a task force with all the towns and a lot of our regulatory partners. They need a consistent approach to how beaches get nourished, to how structures get built, and how activities take place, and to how public access has to be maintained. So that's going to be a challenge going forward. Peconic Estuary Partnership is going to be an important partner in meeting that challenge.
While we are facing impacts like climate change, like increased development and more population, we also are benefiting from a focus that is based on real science and an understanding that science-based solutions are available and have the broad support of the public. Unlike in other places, because so much of our livelihood and the way we live and play is concentrated on the waterways, we find that there's a lot of support for science-based solutions to some of our tougher problems. The Peconic Estuary Partnership serves as a model for how to do government well because of the way that we are continually reaching out to stakeholders for buy-in, for comprehensive understanding of the problems that we face, the understanding that we face them together as a community, and that as a community we can arrive at solutions. That's the way we're going to continue to bring the funding that's necessary to support the partnership, and the way we're going to continue to ensure that the partnership does its great work long into the future, because it's very important.
I always had this image in my head of what I'd seen as a child, learning how to dive and swimming along and seeing blue claw crabs with their arms waving, and seeing eelgrasses, having that memory in my head as a very fantastic place that was so alive and so full of adventure. No matter where you went, you found something amazing to look at. And I'd realized that over the period of my short lifetime, how big a change had occurred. And to me, the National Estuary Program, and particularly the Peconic Estuary Program, this is what your goal is restoration. That's the first word that you talk about. But what are you restoring it to? And who has those memories to tell you that, you know, this is the way it was? How do we get back there? And I think that's a really important lesson for a lot of people, particularly when you start skipping generations. I think that's really the drives you to realize that how much things have changed, how much human beings have had impact here, and how much we have to do to not only restore that, but recognize that we have to intervene because natural processes are being so interfered with by human population that we can't get back there without doing those things, not just sitting back and hoping for the best, but actually doing things to restore the bays, whether it's shore hardening, whether it's natural shorelines, it's the chemical composition and emerging chemicals that are coming out from human beings and runoff and acidification, you know, and the whole litany of things that you can think about that have changed the way our bays and estuaries look like.
I do feel very deeply about the work that you're doing, and I cannot commend the Peconic Estuary Program enough for the great things that they're doing and the focus they bring to so many of the issues that we're going to face in the future. I have grandchildren, and I want to see, for my grandchildren, I want them to see the Long Island that I used to see. I grew up here in the 50s, and I want them to understand that this island has such great potential and enjoyment for us if we use that responsibility that they've given us to use this island and its natural resources carefully and wisely and not exploit it, not contaminate it or pollute it. We need good stewards for the environment. We need to save what is left.
You know, it connects us back to past generations, going back decades and centuries, and you think back and you know, look at what we have inherited from them, and you have a sense of obligation when you were out on that water, when you were in the estuary, and you're in the middle of that beauty. You have a sense and a feeling of obligation to do your part, to do everything you can to make sure that this estuary and this ecosystem is healthy and vibrant and moving in a positive direction, so that we are handing that off to those future generations in a improved, better way.